So the first one, all neat freaks have OCD. No, being neat is a controllable personality trait, whereas OCD is neither controllable nor is it a personality trait. Neat people choose to keep their environments clean, but people with contamination obsessions or cleanliness compulsions are forced to. They will see not doing this as a source of constant anxiety and cannot just up and stop it. Then OCD is all about cleanliness. That is not true, as addressed earlier. Then stress causes OCD. No, it does not. In fact, OCD does have a strong biological basis, which like even people of the age of 4 can have OCD. It's not a controllable personality trait. Again, it can be genetic, and it often stress does not cause OCD, but OCD incites the stress to begin with. Then OCD is a quirk, superpower, or skill. No, it gives the person disconcerting thoughts and urges rather than superhuman logic and analytical skills. So OCD is a mental health diagnosis, not a superpower. And describing it as a personal quirk ignores the very real needs of people who actually do have this condition. And OCD is rare. So of 2.3% of the world's population has OCD, which is around 175 million people, and 1 in 200 children have OCD as well. And so it's not something which you can just say, only the Western world has it. It's not a problem in India. It is actually very prevalent, and it is important that we recognize that it is, so that more people come forward and approach a therapist regarding it. Then, OCD can only be found in privileged people. That is not true again. Gender, ethnic group, and economic status have no bar in OCD. Then tests can confirm OCD. There is no such thing. An OCD diagnosis involves qualified psychiatrists asking questions about your intrusive thoughts, how you act on them, and how they affect you every day. Then, if a person with OCD understands that their thoughts aren't rational, then they're going to stop their compulsions. No, people with OCD, they realize that their thoughts aren't rational, but they're still unable to stop themselves in spite of it. That's a big difference between people who are perfectionists and people who have OCD. Then people with OCD are dangerous. They are just about as dangerous as anybody else is, and they're just as likely to commit a crime as anyone else is. No more, no less. In fact, they often feel guilt and discomfort at the very thought of doing something wrong, and thus go out of their way to ensure that that doesn't happen. And OCD never gets better. It will, it does, and it will. It can be treated with medication coupled with CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, or exposure response prevention therapy. Something as simple as tracking your compulsions and thoughts can help too, which is where we come in, which I'll talk about a bit later. So then there are a couple of related disorders which may stem from or are related to OCD, but which should not be confused with it as well, such as anxiety disorders, which could include generalized anxiety, separation anxiety, panic disorder. That may be as a result of OCD as well, due to the anxiety caused by it. Then there's major depressive disorder, which is depression. And that is actually prevalent in a lot of people with OCD. 90% of the adults who have OCD, in fact, have one of these stemming from OCD disorders as well. Then there's eating disorders as well, like people generally associated with anorexia and bulimia, but these eating disorders could actually form as a compulsion for people with OCD, and that should be recognized as well. Then there's Tourette's syndrome, which involves tics, which are sudden, rapid, and recurrent, and which could include blinking or shrugging shoulders or vocalizations or sniffing. Then there are also disorders which coexist with OCD, such as body dysmorphic disorder, hoarding disorder, and obsessional jealousy, in which a person is kind of has a preoccupation with the partner's infidelity. So there are a couple of different avenues which people can take, which people with OCD can take in order to realize that their thoughts aren't what they think they are, and to realize that their OCD their thoughts do not mean that they're a bad person, to kind of place less weight to them. So the first step, as always, is to consult a therapist. A lot of people have actually messaged me on our Liberate accounts regarding this. I have OCD, what should I do? I don't know what to do. And I've always told them, first thing you should do is always consult a therapist. Because even if even if they can't like find one very easily, they still have to try. They can't just wait, and they can't even just try our app, because it has to be used in conjunction with therapy, and you have to have a human alongside you who's working on these things. And also telling your parents and you're telling your family members and your loved ones is also another essential step. Then the frontline treatment for OCD is cognitive behavioral therapy and exposure response prevention therapy. So ERP involves exposing yourself to your own triggers. So as an example for the washing of hands, if a person wants to do ERP for that, then they would touch a dirty tap, say. And after that, they would try not to do the compulsion. They would try not to wash their hands. That would obviously generate a lot of anxiety and stress for them. But in that way, they normalize their own intrusive thought process, and it'll help them realize that nothing bad is actually going to happen if they don't do their compulsion. And that is a very essential step for OCD. Then another program for the treatment of OCD is called the 4 R's, which is by Jeffrey Schwartz. I actually used this, and I did a lot of research on it when I was making my app. So that involves relabeling your own thoughts as what they are, just thoughts, reattributing them to the chemical imbalance in your brain, refocusing, which involves distancing yourself from your thoughts and immersing yourself in another more productive activity, and revaluing, which kind of involves you taking a step back and being more mindful of your thoughts and trying to be like an impartial spectator, like watching your thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. So beyond therapy, there are a couple of other things which you can do to ease the healing process, which I also followed. So you should never seek reassurance. So a person with OCD may try to talk to their friends or family and try to reassure them that, or get reassurance that they will not do what they think their intrusive thoughts are saying. And that can be really detrimental for therapy, and that should not be followed at all. So yeah, so that is about therapy, and now I'm going to move on to what we do, our app, Liberate, my OCD Fighter. So it was after a lot of research, drawing from my own personal experiences as well as advice and aid from professors of psychology, that my team and I created Liberate, my OCD Fighter. So it's essentially a self-help app, a tool which can help people with patients with OCD in their struggles and complement their therapy as well. So I was diagnosed with OCD in the 8th grade, and I largely had pure rumination. Then I also had a bit of contamination. It was a bunch of different types of OCD all combined together, as with most people as well. So while I was doing therapy, one of the fundamental aspects of it was tracking my compulsions and keeping a diary entry of them. And while that may sound simple, it was actually a really tedious and difficult process, because performing the compulsion was much easier than going back to my room, unlocking my diary, and actually making an entry. So the cost-benefit analysis at that moment didn't seem worth it to go and write something down, when that sense of relief was what I was chasing for. And so I felt it would be much simpler if I instead had to just click a button and track my compulsions in that way, rather than actually writing it down. And also the fear of someone stumbling upon my diary really haunted me, because there's a lot of shame associated with intrusive thoughts with OCD, because like you won't want anyone to know that you're thinking, what if I stab someone, right? So so writing all these intrusive thoughts down was quite out of the question for me. And so giving consideration to all these thoughts, I concluded that an app would be the best, an app that acts like a diary would be the best suited for therapy. So a mobile is portable, it provides privacy, and making entries would be easier with gentle reminders from an app. So I drew inspiration from my sister who suggested that I actually make the app. And I felt a responsibility to create this both for myself as well as for the OCD community at large, because I've talked to other people with OCD on OCD support groups, and I've seen that they also have troubles with this, and they also agreed with the idea of making this. So with the help of, so I started creating this app in May 2018, and I was the only developer for it, but I formed a team of around 10 people, of teenagers, some of whom had OCD from around the world, to help me with the graphics and design and content of the app. These are a few screenshots of it. That's the working model right now. We worked on it over the course of 6 months, and we also worked with professors of psychology and other psychiatrists on the content of the app. And now, after 6 months of work, it was released in November 2018. And now we are working towards raising awareness on mental health and well-being, as well as ignored mental disorders such as OCD. So now I'm going to show you a short video about which my team created about our app. Sorry. So Liberate is India's first and only app to provide, and it also enables you to have enter diary entries and talk about your mood and emotions during the day or during a particular incident. Then you can also set goals for different periods of time and aiding you in measuring your own progress. And then it also has a bunch of different exercises, which include cognitive, behavioral, and exposure response prevention. And so during my own time with OCD, I found it very difficult to find resources for the same, especially online. And actually reading about other stories of people with OCD was kind of a trigger for me. And that led to me doing more compulsions. So it was even more difficult for me to go ahead and do research on that. So I wanted to provide a platform which allowed people to go through all different kinds of exercises, since different exercises work for different people, as I found out. Since ERP actually didn't work for me, I had to use a different technique. So then the app has a fear ladder, which is ERP. It allows you to resist your compulsions, has thought exercises, which enable you to analyze your thoughts and make progress, and also has a panic button in case of any emergency, and a safety plan for the contingency. And it also allows you to connect you to your therapist through weekly progress reports as well, because I found that a lot of information was lost in between therapy sessions. And so we kind of consolidated all the information collected from the app and sent it to the therapist in an email. So currently, Liberate is available in the Play Store in India and USA, and we are working on a global release and hope to launch that in a couple of months with some legal aid. So we have around 3,000 users using the app currently, and we've gotten a lot of testimonials, a lot of users who come to me and talk to me about how the app has helped them. A few actually told me that it changed their life, which was really gratifying to see. And then we have a rating of around 4.8 stars on the Play Store. And at present, we are launching a bunch of new initiatives to further our cause and normalize OCD and talk a bit more about that and raise awareness on it. So at present, we have a school outreach program, first of all, where we conduct presentations across schools worldwide to educate students about OCD. And we have around 20 interns working on that as of now. They are going to 5 schools in their own area and giving presentations with our material, which my team and I developed. Then we also have a student ambassador program in which they start their own chapters or clubs on anxiety disorders and such as eating disorders, OCD, and they do an event every month to raise awareness about that. That could be a spoken word event, could be a talent show, it could be a fundraiser for research. And we guide them in this process of setting up a club and we have it around 20 schools to date, and we are constantly supporting them, and it's doing quite well as of now. And we are also providing internships, and we have a team of over 100 people right now. And in order to get more people to actually use the app, we're translating to different languages, such as we have it in Kannada, and we're hoping to make it more available for people who do not know English as well. So we're translating to all the Indian languages, and we're hoping to include it in government hospitals as well as a possible avenue and resource for people with OCD. And we're also looking to utilize the app to connect people with therapists who do not have therapists to therapists, and provide a platform for them to have sessions as well. Since if they don't have access to a therapist in their own region, such as if they're in a village or so, then they could connect to someone or have video chat sessions through our app. And we're also working on a couple of other AI components that could ease the user's journey and make the app more personalized. So OCD is one affliction in a huge spectrum of mental health disorders. All of these are interrelated, and an OCD sufferer may quite easily develop anxiety or depression if their primary disease aggravates. So mental health diseases are hardly spoken about with any due gravity. The need of the hour is to start a conversation on mental health. It is to normalize the issue without trivializing it. What needs to be recognized by people is the importance of early intervention and treatment. No one waits for a fever to reach 105 degrees before going to a doctor. So why should it be different with mental disorders? So surveys have shown that 10 to 12% of Indians suffering from mental diseases actually seek help. And people with OCD, they take an average of 11 years to approach a therapist. So patients who have mental health disorders are often looked down upon and even feared. And this is not